I'm Jazz.
Welcome to our podcast!
So Leah, when the pandemic happened, how was your lockdown or your quarantine at that era?
Yeah, actually, it's very hard for me, especially for my family, because we've experienced being quarantined for almost 14 days long. And how about you, Jazz?
Same goes as you. I was also quarantined for 14 days to a month when the pandemic happened. It was also very hard because in terms of foods, you cannot have an easy access into the market because of the pandemic. So it's like living in a slow time zone because everything is not accessible. That's why it's very hard for us, not just for me, but also in the whole family, in our whole community, because we need to embrace the new normal, which is we cannot have a communication face to face. And yeah, that's what happened in my lockdown season. It was very difficult. It was very challenging, especially us as students, especially when you have a sickness. You cannot have an easy access in an hospital because you need to have a lot of what you call this approvals
Yeah.
to access or even to go outside of the house. There are a lot of necessary things that you need to access before you can go out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of requirements you need to provide, especially if you have sickness at that time.
And of course, work was also in the low level that time. A lot were
Decreased.
yeah, it decreased. A lot of employees became unemployed because of the
a lot of
pandemic.
changes
Yeah.
happened during that time. So that is what you mean.
Yeah, especially us students. When we first stepped into college, our fresh college
Yeah.
time wasn't that exciting because we need to adapt to the new changes, which is the new normal, where we have to take our classes online instead of face to face.
Actually, there's a two choices that time, right? Online and then this what do you call this one?
Or
Like
Modular.
modular, yeah. And what type have you choose that time?
I was in the online because I was also very concerned about my health because the pandemic that time it spread. The virus spread widely, fastly at that time. That's why you need to take extra cautious. Modular is also good, but at that time it's not that applicable. And if us students, it became hard for us to cope up or recover from that pandemic because when we came back to school, it became an adjustment because we became comfortable in our recent recent things like being in an online class. Everything evolved inside our comfort zone, which is our house. So when the face-to-face came, it was very hard for us to adapt again. So if we think deeply, if us students are already having a hard time coping up or recovering the after the pandemic, how much more is the government or
Actually, during the pandemic, you mean, because a lot of what do you call this one, business have been closed,
yeah.
and then they also need to cope up with the new normal things, and a lot of like for example in the grocery store you need to like be more careful in regards with buying something with them, like yeah, especially in the grocery store we need to buy them like have you experienced that during the pandemic your barangay captain, some of the barangays actually have imposed this what do you call this a rule, like each family should have only one family member,
representative.
oh yeah, representative go outside to buy the important things
Where you're giving that card.
yeah, that card, and
You mean the quarantine pass?
quarantine pass. Yeah, that is what I mean.
You need to get that to the barangay.
And then in order for you to get or buy something in a grocery store, you need to provide that card. And then it's been really hard to not just for every family but for everyone, especially in regards with the business that others have.
Yeah. So actually, pandemic has a big impact, not just to us students, but also to the like you said, business, transportation, accommodation, services, food services, travels, especially in trading.
Mhm.
I mean, in the government that time they released a public support, which is it's an whole country. So a lot of monetary were released to support. So the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas they need to maintain their key factors to support the dying or the losing economic recovery here in our country.
Government plans to cut corporate income taxes in one swoop to 25% from 30%, primarily to save the country's small businesses badly hit by the health crisis. Aside from this, government also plans to lengthen the net operating loss carryover of various businesses from 3 to 5 years.
For new investors, we will actively seek them out and ask them what they would need as incentives to contribute to job creation in the Philippines.
Chua says they're also proposing to give existing investors more leeway in terms of fiscal incentives so that they can adjust to the impact of COVID-19. But he stresses the incentives will still be targeted as they need to strike a balance between generating tax revenues and allowing businesses to recover.
For countryside, we will have targeted incentives so that we can support the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. And finally, we will have to improve the management and governance of tax incentives through the FIRB, or the Fiscal Incentives Review Board.
Currently, government's second tax reform package called Corporate Income Tax and Incentives Rationalization Act, or CITIRA, is being repackaged as the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, or CREATE, to incorporate the changes Chua mentioned. But with the tax cut now being implemented in one go, instead of the original 1 percentage point cut per year, government estimates foregone revenues of around 226 billion pesos or over $5 billion through 2022. The government is aiming to spend at least 1.49 trillion pesos or nearly $30 billion to accelerate the local economy's recovery, which may affect the country's prudent fiscal targets. But Finance Chief Carlos Dominguez III says they expect to create value of around 800 billion to 1 trillion pesos from their beefed up investments.
If you put it in the right place, the actual value, the actual economic activity that kind of investment can make is probably 800 to a trillion pesos, 800 billion to a trillion pesos, because of the multiplier effect that you can get by putting it as bank capital and as capital of PhilGuarantee.
The Duterte administration aims to start the recovery stage of the economy by June until December this year. This would also include more focus on the multi-billion-dollar Build infrastructure program